So in this video I'm going to be analysing Ralf Rangnick's career in football, looking at his time as manager of Ulm 1846, Hannover 96, Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig, before looking at his role behind the scenes at the Red Bull clubs, and then I'll look at what he would bring to Manchester United as interim manager and beyond, and overall whether he's the right choice for Manchester United right now. But before that, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfever.com, a link will be left in the description, and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL to get 5% off. So Rangnick started his managerial career at the age of just 25, becoming manager of FC Viktoria Bagnek, a 6th division German club in 1983. In 1984, Valery Lobanovsky's Dynamo Kiev were staying nearby and decided to play Viktoria Bagnek in a friendly match, and this would be a pivotal point in Rangnick's career, leading to the development of the now famous Gengin pressing style. Rangnick talked about how Lobanovsky's Kiev side pressed his side off the park. He said that when the ball went out of play, he had to count to make sure they didn't have 13 or 14 players on the pitch. Their press was that intense, swarming Rangnick's side. It was after this encounter where Rangnick really began to develop the Gengin pressing style, which is also now referred to as the counter press. The Gengin press involves short, intense periods of pressing, with the team using a narrow shape to press the ball as a whole, suffocating the player with the ball, and hoping to win the ball back high up the pitch when the opposition players are out of their defensive shape, and the side can look to create a chance from this turnover in the opposition's half.
In the very moment you win the ball, it's about putting the other team under pressure, no matter if it's high up, the higher up the better, but wherever the ball is, we try to win the ball back. And we also found out that it's not only about where we win the ball back. Obviously, the higher up we win the ball back, the closer the distance to the other team's goal, keeper and goal. And the higher up we win the ball, the less players the other team have at that very moment behind the ball to prevent us from creating a chance or to score. But we also found out that it's not only about the location where we win the ball, it's also about the intensity. The more aggressive, the more intense we win that ball in that very moment, the more we take this intensity and this tempo into the counter-attack. So that means the more intense we win the ball, the bigger the chance that we create from this.
In the 90s, Rangnick began to revolutionise German football. See, in the 90s in Germany, it was more common to see a sweeper in a back three than it was to see a back four, and Rangnick started to change this. His tactical revolutions also brought success on the pitch as well. From 1997 to 1999, he managed back-to-back promotions with Ulm 1846, seeing them promoted to the Bundesliga for the first time in their history. In 2002, he would then get Hannover 96 promoted to the Bundesliga, and after a brief spell at Schalke, he would take over at Hoffenheim, who at that point were in the 3rd division of German football. From 2006 to 2008, Rangnick managed to get Hoffenheim promoted back to back from the 3rd division to the 2nd division and then to the Bundesliga, and it only got better as in their first season in the Bundesliga in 2008-2009, and they had a phenomenal start, getting 35 points out of their first 51 available. Looking like they were going to make a title charge in their first Bundesliga season, they did fall off in the second half of the season, eventually dropping down to 7th place, but still a very impressive first season in the German top division. It was also in this season when Rangnick's Hoffenheim completely destroyed Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund 4-1, and it was this game that moulded Jurgen Klopp's own philosophy, with him praising how well Rangnick's side pressed Dortmund completely off the park, and it was this style of Gengin press in which Klopp would have so much success with Borussia Dortmund, winning back-to-back Bundesligas and taking them to the Champions League final. So up until this point, Rangnick had already revolutionised how German football thought about pressing. However, it was only in 2012 when Rangnick became the director of football for both Red Bull Salzburg and RB Leipzig, where his career would get taken to the next level. In just 8 years from 2012 to 2020, Rangnick oversaw RB Leipzig going from the 4th division of German football to the Champions League final, and all whilst using a high pressing, high intensity tactical style, along with shrewd transfer business and player development. But what sort of system does he like to use to set up his side to provide this Gengin pressing style, and what does he look for in potential players to bring into a side? So Rangnick's Gengin pressing style was massively influenced by Arrigo Sacchi's AC Milan side in the late 80s, early 90s. Arrigo Sacchi was the one to really popularise space-orientated and ball-orientated defending, pressing high up the pitch in a well-coordinated 4-4-2 shape. This is why the primary system that Rangnick's used throughout his managerial career has been the 4-4-2, which becomes a 4-2-2-2 in possession, with the wide midfielders moving inside into the half space, playing as interior midfielders ahead of the double pivot. But Rangnick is not solely limited limited to this system, he's also used a 4-4-2 diamond and a 3-5-2 shape as well. But despite the positional flexibility in whichever system he uses, all of his systems follow the same fundamentals. Out of possession, his side look to press the opposition by showing them to one side, making their play more predictable, which allows Rangnick's sides, by using clever positioning to cut off passing lanes, to cut down the pitch, making the area that the team try to play out from smaller and therefore making it easier for Rangnick's side to press aggressively. Whereas managers like Pep Guardiola and Erik ten Hag tend to use a man-to-man pressing system, pushing the team high up the pitch, Rangnick instead uses players to cut off the space, using their body positioning to cut off a pass in behind them. This reduces the amount of options a player has on the ball and allows Rangnick's side to commit more men to the press, looking to win the ball back in dangerous positions from where they can then attack. Rangnick likes his defensive line to push high up the pitch to create a vertically compact pressing unit, reducing the space between the lines. Rangnick's sides tend to press periodically rather than pressing throughout the whole match. They'll go through periods where they do often sit off and invite the opposition on, but for other periods they'll push up high and look to win the ball back high up the pitch. So it's almost like Rangnick's counter-pressing is used as an offensive weapon. Even though Rangnick and managers like Pep Guardiola and even Xavi now do share that interest in pressing high up the pitch, they do differentiate massively when you look at their sides in possession. Pep Guardiola's style of play is very much one around a methodical build-up play, focusing on possession, drawing the opposition out of spaces and have players move into those spaces to then progress the ball forward. Rangnick's style of play is very much similar to Jurgen Klopp, as you would describe it as heavy metal football. Rangnick doesn't like sideways or backwards passes, he wants efficient passing forward to move the play forward as quickly as possible. As just from a logical perspective, the opposition team are at their most vulnerable when they lose the ball. Players are out of their defensive shape because usually sides have possession shapes which expand, creating more space between each players, but defensively they want players close together to keep a compact system and reduce the space for the opposition. So if you can counter, as soon as the opposition lose the ball, there's going to be more space for you to play into. And that's why we see Rangnick's side press very narrowly, as when they win the ball back, you've now got players in central positions to then counter with. And if you then combine this with vertical quick passes, you get the ball into the final third more often, into your attacking players and into goal scoring positions. This is why the term gegenpressing translates to counter pressing, and this is why Rangnick's pressing is used as an offensive weapon and why he's considered the godfather of gegenpressing. But Ralf Rangnick is so much more than just a head coach or a manager. He's essentially been a director of football for both Red Bull clubs, Red Bull Salzburg and RB Leipzig, since 2012, and they've had resounding success. He is currently doing a consultancy job at Lokomotiv Moscow. I'm not sure if that will end now that he's at Manchester United. I assume it would. But one thing I'm quite certain of is that Ralf Rangnick is not just going to be a consultant to Manchester United, he's probably going to be the director of football come the end of the season at Manchester United, or at least have some sort of influence on how the team is run. This is because I can't imagine Rangnick taking a job as an interim manager if it didn't come with long-term influence over the next few years, and that does seem to be what's happened. Now, in a later video, I will be going over how I think Rangnick will set up this Manchester United side, and I'll be looking at which manager will come in after Rangnick at the end of the season and how those two will work together. So if you want to see those videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified when it comes out. But how is Manchester United's transfer policy going to change under Rangnick? Now, before at Rangnick's previous clubs, he was operating under a different budget to the one he'll be operating under with Manchester United. At Red Bull Salzburg, he tended to sign players under the £5 million mark, looking to then develop them and sell them on for double figures. At RB Leipzig, he tended to bring in young players from bigger academies for small fees, or bring in players for between £10 and £20 million. At Manchester United, I do think we'll be seeing him bring in players for between £25 and £40 million, between the ages of 20 to about 25, and then looking to develop them into world-class players. And Ralf Rangnick is arguably the best in the world, not just when it comes to identifying players with potential, but also identifying how those players can develop and what sort of coaching and training they need to develop in accordance to their ability. Rangnick was a man who brought Roberto Firmino to Hoffenheim back in 2011 for just £3.6 million. 4 years on, in 2015, he would be signed by Liverpool for around £29 million, and has gone on since then under Jurgen Klopp to be one of the best modern day false nines in the world. Rangnick also signed Sadio Mane for Red Bull Salzburg in 2012 for a fee of £3.6 million from Metz, and 2 years later in 2014 Southampton would sign him for around £12 million, and 2 years after that he would then go on to play for Liverpool, being signed for around £34 million, and obviously, like Firmino under Klopp, he's gone on to become an elite level player. He also brought Erling Haaland to Red Bull Salzburg back in 2019. and signed 18-year-old Joshua Kimmich from Stuttgart, bringing him to RB Leipzig in 2013 for just £500,000. He also signed Timo Werner to RB Leipzig from Stuttgart in 2016 for a then club record £8.4 million, and of course he would later go on to be sold for £45 million to Chelsea in the summer of 2020. So it's fair to say that Ralf Rangnick certainly has an eye for a young player who could develop into a top level player, and that's what he's going to bring to Manchester United. In a later video, which I will be putting out in the next few days, I'm going to be looking at how Rangnick will set up this Manchester United side from now to the end of the season, and which manager would suit Rangnick come the summer, and which players he could look to bring into Manchester United as well. So remember to subscribe and click the bell for notifications so you get notified when those videos come out. I've also put some other videos linked in the description below, such as my video looking at how Zidane, Erik ten Hag and Brendan Rodgers would set up Manchester United, so you can check out those as well.